It was 2008 during the presidential campaign. And this was right around the time too when, healthcare was the issue everyone was talking about. So Joe Biden was coming through our town to do, like a big rally. And they were looking for an average person to speak to the crowd about some trouble they were having with health insurance coverage. And I went out and talked. The crowd was about 1,000 people, and just told my story, and it was incredible. At the end of that event, a gentleman walked up to me and hands me a business card and says, "My name's Larry Kissel, and I'm running for Congress in your district, and if I get elected, I'll help your family." So he did get elected. And so as soon as I finished working on the state mandate with my state representative, Tricia Cotham, I had saved that business card. I have that original business card to this day, and called his office and said, "I don't know if you remember me," but, and I, talked about that I had spoken about this and how he'd given me his card, and now I wanted to come talk to him about working on a federal bill. And within about 2 weeks, they called me and said that he would sponsor the bill. So that was December, and they introduced the bill during the next year. And he remained our bill sponsor through that Congress and the next. But then, unfortunately, during the next election cycle, he wasn't reelected. But we will forever owe him a debt of gratitude for being the first member of Congress, to care enough about this issue to introduce a lymphedema bill. But on the bright side, the fact that he didn't get reelected gave us the opportunity to get a new bill sponsor, and we ended up not only getting one sponsor, but a whole team of sponsors. So now we have 2 Democrats and 2 Republicans, working together to promote our bill. The compression supplies aren't covered by Medicare because they don't fit into any of their existing benefit categories. So all of these categories have a definition, and if an item, doesn't match that definition, it can't be put under that category. And apparently with compression supplies, it doesn't match any of those categories. So it's a true technicality, just an inadvertent gap in coverage. We need to change the statute so that compression supplies can fit into one of these categories. And so what the Lymphedema Treatment Act will do is add compression supplies to the DME benefit category. It would cover all of the existing supplies, all of the bandaging supplies, garments, custom and standard fit, any level of compression, whatever is prescribed by the doctor, and all of the alternative compression devices and supplies that we often use at night, or sometimes some of the daytime alternatives for patients who can't wear garments. And then there's one more clause in there that says, and any other item deemed appropriate by the secretary, so that if there are new products developed down the road, we don't have to go through this process again. It's the cornerstone of treatment. Without it, nothing else really makes a measurable or lasting difference. So all that work that we do, about 40 minutes a day I spend doing his manual lymph drainage. If he wasn't wearing his compression the rest of the day, an hour later, he'd probably be back to where he was before I did his manual lymph drainage. And then some. I don't think you could never do manual lymph drainage enough throughout the day to compensate for the refilling.
All right, you're done. Yay!
I feel like I didn't pick this, it picked me. Like, I had my dream career before becoming part of this lymphedema world. I was a ballet dancer, and so many little girls want to be a ballet dancer, and very few go on to actually be able to be a professional ballet dancer. So I had my dream career, thought I was gonna have them and go back to work because I loved my job. And then of course the babies came along, and I guess like happens to other women too, I really wanted more time with them than I could have gotten going back to work full time. And then of course the extra care that lymphedema needs kind of made that decision probably a little bit easier too, so that it gave me the time to do that. Maybe I was just right for a new cause or something. Of course this is something I would have never picked for myself, because you would never pick for your child to have an incurable disease, but I just saw this huge need there. And part of me was angry that nobody had fixed this problem and now it was my child's, because it wasn't a new problem. And, as I looked into it further, there'd been people complaining about it for a very long time, and as people do, saying, somebody should fix this problem. But without ever taking the responsibility of saying, well, maybe that somebody needs to be me. It's enough to be born with an incurable disease and have coverage for your treatment items. You shouldn't have to fight for those items on top of that. So I couldn't cure him, but I could make it easier for him to live with by getting the coverage for the items that he needed to have. So he's improved tremendously thanks to the proper and consistent treatment and being very adherent and growing, losing that baby fat, becoming more active. He's a completely healthy, normal, active little boy. When you have a child, it's the whole family finding a new normal, because it's everyone's routine that needs to make time, to do these treatments.
No biggie. It's just a couple of additional things into your day. That's all.
And in the beginning, I thought it would be harder for him to have this disease being a twin when his twin wasn't affected. But in hindsight, that too has been a blessing, because I think if he wasn't a twin, it would have been hard to not be a little protective of him, knowing that he's at higher risk for infection and stuff like that. But when you have a twin, it would have just been so obvious and unfair and cruel if I allowed his brother to do something and not him, that it prevented me from acting on any of that natural inclination to be protective. And that's such a blessing, because he's just had a completely healthy, happy, normal childhood, just like his brother. The disease hasn't stopped him from doing a thing, and now I have that peace of mind that it's not going to stop him from doing anything he wants in his life. I feel very encouraged by how much has changed just in his almost 8 years of life. So I feel like it's quite possible there will be a cure in his lifetime, or at least there's going to be great advances in the understanding and the treatment. So I hope that I'm fighting for this coverage, and eventually he won't even need it, because we won't even need those compression supplies, hopefully. But even if we're not to that point, I know that there's going to be great progress that's made, because there already has been just in his almost 8 years of life. So the time is right for advancement in this field. It's been ignored for too long. I think the scientific and medical community, the research community, is just realizing that. So I think we're on the cusp of really amazing things happening.